Welcome back to The Truth with Trinity, and I am your host, Trinity. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I would like to send you a warm welcome. Here I talk about issues that happen within the Black community, hopefully some resolution or at least some food for thought to go about your daily way. So without further ado, I would like to start off by discussing the shooting of a 16-year-old African American girl that just took place April 20th, 2021, a little bit before 5 p.m. So this is right after the Derek Chauvin's conviction. So I wanted to start off by, stating once again this is a 16-year-old African American girl. So there's not much out and that is released about the story, but to start off, like I said, she's 16 years old. She apparently had called the authorities because there were other girls and a group of people trying to jump her. So she called the authorities, the cops, and this was in a suburban area. So when you look at the video, like I said, this took place in Columbus, Ohio. When you look at the video, this is a very nice, well-kept community, all houses, very nice suburban area. And, there's loud commotion, fighting going on. And, the cops have released the footage from their body cam. And you see the young 16-year-old lady. She's about to strike another person with a knife. So we're not sure why or what happened beforehand, but the cops did open fire and the 16-year-old was, pronounced dead. So I wanted to talk about that for a bit. And I see problems on both sides of the fence, with us as Black people and the system as well. So there's problems on both sides. And one of the things I'd like to talk about is us as Black people. We want changes in this country, in this system. But, it's one thing to be in the urban areas. And this is, a lot of, people of color live in the urban areas. And I don't know about you, but I've seen it before driving by. I've grew up, around situations like that where, there's a group of onlookers. There's, people fighting, and, just yelling and egging it on. And, it's one thing to be in the hood and do that. And it shouldn't even happen in our neighborhoods because that's where we live at. But then you're out in the suburbs, okay? So you're in a very nice community and you're bringing that type of, situation. And I'm not sure what it was about. It could be over a dispute over a boy. It doesn't say. But it's the fact that, it's not looking too pretty on us as Black people, what you see on camera. The typical situation where there's fighting, a lot of loud, boisterous behavior and violent behavior as well. So, out in the neighborhood, the suburbs, and I repeat that because, a lot of times some of us, we get upset, that some other, people and maybe even white people don't want us to live in their neighborhoods. But look at this example right here, out in the driveway, just arguing and fighting out in the driveway. So it went from looking like the suburbs to somewhere on MLK Avenue in the hood real quick. So once again, the cop opened fire and, some say he could have used a taser or at least aimed at a different area, like her leg or something, which may be true. Some people say that, like I said, the cop could have used a different form to de-escalate. Uh, even though the girl had a knife in her hand. And that's one thing I do want to say, though. Like, we have to be honest with ourselves. The cops are at the scene, and he did say something in regards to stop. We need to take it upon ourselves to be able to control the situation before it gets out of hand. Another thing is, there was a grown African American man. So these are all, looks like they're all, African American. And he kicks one of the girls in the head. So not the girl that gets shot. I'm not sure his relationship to the girl who got killed at the scene. But this is a grown, black man that kicks another kid in the head. And when the cop shoots the 16-year-old black girl, he starts yelling at the cop, "That was a kid. That was a kid you just killed." And I'm scratching my head. This is that, once again, what I was saying in one of my other episodes, that we don't need the black man or us as a people, but we don't need the black man to care when a white man, a cop, assaults a woman. We need you to care about your own actions, about how you treat your own women as a black man. And I'm going to repeat that again. The black man was kicking one of the other women, or it wasn't even a woman, it's a underage girl in the head. But the cop shoots one of the other black girls, and she gets killed. And he stops what he's doing, and he starts yelling at the cop about, how she's a child. Now, with there being a man at the scene, in an all-girls fight, he should have been one of the ones that was a authoritative figure. That's why we need our black men to step up, and he should have been telling those girls to calm down. He should have been de-escalating the situation. And I say that because, if you don't want other people, in your affairs, in your communities, if you feel like, especially us as black people, if we don't want them handling it their way, we need to take it upon ourselves to be able to handle things ourselves, There should have been no way that those girls got that out of hand. I believe, anyway, that they should have got that out of hand with a grown man on the scene. And it was just outrageous for him to be participating in assaulting underage girls. Another thing is, too, is, there's marching going on. There's now there's protests going on in Columbus as far as what has happened and transpired on April 20th with the 16-year-old girl. And I want to say my condolences to the family because it's never a pretty thing to, have your child, their life taken. But that's one message I want to send to us as parents, though, is that we must raise our children to be civilized. Now, there is no excuse for certain behaviors from the cops, and there does need to be police reform, but we must do our part. Every situation and every encounter that happens with the cops is not always a situation where we can go out and march and protest where we're not looking like we're in the wrong. Okay? There should have been no way that they were out there in that community causing that type of nuisance, okay? Because we open ourselves up for things that are horrific like that to happen, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. And like I said once before, it's bad enough that we do it in our own communities. We should be able to live amongst each other and have a peaceful community. And I have an episode, like I said once before, it's called "What If Our Hood Areas Look Like Suburbs?" And that's what I was talking about. We shouldn't have to move out to the suburbs to have a peaceful area, because it's not about what it looks like. It's about how we treat each other and how we conduct each other and, how we conduct ourselves. How we conduct ourselves in our everyday life. But the fact that they were out in the suburbs, in this well-maintained community and acting like that, I mean, what did they think was going to happen, and what do we think is going to happen? And that's why we must teach our children more than just the cops will kill you because you're black, but we also must teach our children that there's a certain way and a certain tone that you conduct yourself out in society in public. Okay? And once again, we need, our black men not to sit and watch when girls fight. It shouldn't be amusing. It shouldn't be entertaining when you see two women fight or multiple women fight. This is not time to grab your phone and get popcorn and smoke a blunt to watch women fight. It's time for you to break those women up from fighting. Okay? And number two, the last thing a man should do is be stepping in between a fight and starting to assault the females in a fight. Okay? And I tell the black man, if he wants so many cops to not have to intervene in the communities, it's time for him to take some responsibility. Like, if you don't want a white cop or a cop, period, in your communities telling you what to do, treating you like an adolescent, it's time for you to take some responsibility once again. And the last thing I would like to say, on the other hand, with, police reform, I do think that there needs to be police reform in America. And maybe one of the suggestions can be that maybe black cops can predominantly police, black demographic areas, where there's primarily black people, and white people, they pretty much already got it set up like that. When you go out to predominantly white townships and communities, they very rarely have, they'll have a few non-white officers, but they primarily already have it set up to where there's primarily white officers. And maybe, but with, in the black communities, you see a lot more white cops, and you see black cops too, but there's a lot more white cops in the black areas than you'll see black cops in the white communities. And I say that because, you tend to respect the people more that you live around. And I think a lot of white cops, they live, in the outskirts, so they cannot relate, and they do not understand the psychodynamics behind black people. And I think there are some bad black cops too, that, eagerly murder other black people as well. But I don't think it ever looks good when you see a white cop on TV or on body cam, murdering a black person, even if it was justified or not. So I think a way to maybe eradicate that or rectify that would be to, have more black cops, stationed in black areas, and very few white cops in those areas. And I honestly feel like that would cut down too on some of the cops that may join forces just to be able to justify murdering black people. And I'm not saying that this is what happened in this case, but that's a whole nother subject right there. But that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Like I said, rest in peace to the sister it happened to. And we as black people, we got a long way to go as far as justice with the system, but we also got a long way to go with ourselves as well, within our own communities and how we treat each other. That pretty much wraps up this segment. It's been a pleasure talking with you all. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can at thetruthwithtrinity.com. You can also listen to my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Anchor. And always remember, if you can't tell the truth with anyone else, you can with Trinity. Till next time, take care.